Hi, this is Hot Chocolate with Paul. I wanted to talk about minimalism. That is, living with as few things as you can get away with living with. So why hang on to things that you're not using or things that you don't need? You're only keeping what you need and what you want. So for me, it really started back around the time when my mother passed away in 2002. And not to criticize her in any way, but while I and my sisters were going through her house to clean things out so that we could get ready to sell it, I started thinking about some of the things that she kept. And it made me think about things that I have. I saw things that had been tucked away in the attic, and it's like, okay, why is this here or why is that there? And I recognize that a lot of things that people hold on to are for sentimental reasons. But, how much can you hold on for sentimental reasons that just doesn't become clutter, taking up space that could be used for something else? So as I was going through those things, I started thinking about my own stuff and started questioning, well, what do I have that my daughters would like to keep when I pass on? It came down to, what am I using? What do I need? As you go through different stages of life, there are things that you need, and then stages of life where you realize that there are things that you don't need anymore. So why hang on to them? In terms of getting rid of things, you can give them away, you can throw things away, you can try to sell things, whatever. That is kind of irrelevant to my concept of minimalism. Like I said, I don't criticize anybody for wanting to hang on to things. It's really a personal choice as to what you want to keep and why you want to keep it. So anything I say about minimalism is I'm speaking for myself, my view of things. I will tell you that my wife Stacy and I do have different opinions about what we like to keep and what we like to get rid of. I tend to get rid of more things than Stacy does. She likes to keep things, again, for sentimental reasons, and I'm not criticizing her for that. Things that she thinks she might want to use in the future, and that's all fine with me. I respect her wishes, and aside from once in a while asking her, is this something that you still want to keep or not, I really don't try to push her in any way. She did have a couple of things that she meant to sell years ago that she was hanging on to. And that was really the only thing I ever really pushed her on, is like, okay, if you wanted to sell it years ago, why are you still keeping it? So we did get rid of those things. And since then, I have not bothered her about any of that. So back to me. What is it that I'm keeping and what is it that I'm not keeping? Well, every so often I go through and I clean out items, just anything that you would keep in the house, magazines. Okay, I'm done reading it. I don't need this anymore. Old files, old papers. Okay, been there, done that. I don't need this anymore. A lot of that stuff either gets burned or shredded or thrown out, whatever the case may be. When it comes to sentimental items, if it's something that I don't think I'm really ever going to use again, I'll take a picture of it. I don't print picture prints anymore. I have a total of 2 photo albums left over. One photo album is an album that Stacy and I put together from our wedding and our honeymoon. And the other photo album is a photo album that kind of summarizes my life up to now. So I have to tell you what I did. I've been taking a lot of pictures ever since I got married. No, ever since I started dating my first wife. So we're going back to my college years. Of course, there were pictures that I collected from my parents, especially after my parents passed on. Other pictures that were handed down to me by relatives, from times before I was born, and lots of pictures that I took through my first marriage years and years of my children growing up. So these were all carefully placed into photo albums, and I had a whole wall full of albums on shelves that took up a lot of space. Then around 2000, I got my first digital camera. So for about 6 or 7 years, I essentially had two ways of storing photos. One was this wall shelf full of photo albums, and the other was digital photos that I was keeping on my computer. And I started to think, well, if the whole world is going digital, why am I keeping all of these photo albums with paper prints? I will tell you that it took me a long time to finally go through with something that I had been wanting to do. So I think it was around 2007 that I literally started pulling apart those photo albums. I scanned thousands of pictures from all those photo albums and made digital images out of them, which I have stored on my laptop and on an external drive and on a photo website. The whole process of scanning all these pictures took years. I think the bulk of the project was done after 5 or 6 years, but even since then, I still come across photos that were never scanned, or I just never got around to scanning them, and added those into the digital collection. So it's a very large digital collection that I have right now, and I have continued to add on to that digital collection all the photos that I take these days. The things that Stacy and I like to do, the activities we're involved in, places we go to, places we travel to, seeing my grandchildren, visiting all 3 of my daughters, visiting Stacy's family. So all of those are in a very large digital photo album. Now around 2013 or 2014, I got serious about wanting to create a photo business, taking pictures and selling photos. So I'd say for about 2 years, I worked on this, taking a lot of pictures, and was very proud of photos, landscapes, things like that. I was very proud of that collection and wanted to see if I could sell those pictures. So I created a photo website where I could sell these pictures, and it's online now. You can find it. It's called tallphotos.com. And if you go there, you will see different categories of landscape type and scenic pictures that I took mostly around 10 years ago, but I've added some since then. And if you see any you really like, there's a way you can order a print for yourself. There were a couple festivals that I went to where I set up a pop-up tent with siding on it to keep the weather out, such as the Park Avenue Festival. I was there for 1 year, and then there was another one in Livingston County. And in both cases, I set up pictures to sell. I did sell pictures at those, but basically I broke even with the Park Avenue Festival after paying the fee to be a part of that. And then the money I made from it, I basically broke even. And the Canisius one, it didn't go quite as well, partly because a storm came in the afternoon. And as it was coming in, they wanted everybody to shut the whole thing down. So that one I did at a loss. But I had a lot of people telling me they liked my pictures, but very few people were buying them. So that was just around the time that my wedding business started up. And I found out that I was having a lot more success as a wedding officiant. So I kind of backed off from trying to sell photos, but I kept the website up for another reason. The website is hosted through a place called smugmug.com. And what you do with smugmug.com, it's meant mostly for commercial photographers, wedding photographers and people like that. But you set up your own domain. Mine is tallphotos.com. And then there's different ways of selling your pictures online. If you go to the smugmug.com website, you can see all the different categories that are available, and you pick the one that you think will work best for you. Anyways, what I did with this tallphotos.com is I created a folder for family pictures. I made it private. It's a password so that only people that I give the password to can get into it. But it's where I have almost all of my family photos from, going back to the year 1900. And I categorized them by year. I did a lot of this for my daughters because I wanted them to have access to all of the photos that I've taken through all the years, and photos from, I guess you could call it their ancestors, so they have access to them. I also made it available to my sisters and my nieces and nephews. And I've been told that they all go on there on a fairly regular basis to look at pictures and download the ones that they want to use for one reason or another. So this is where I keep all of my family photos now. I have a version of that that's on my laptop at home. So it's a backup system. But I have a lot of faith in smugmug.com since it's a paid subscription, to have my own website on there. That's where I keep a lot of my pictures. One thing I would never, ever, ever do is trust a social website like Facebook or something to be the only place where I have my pictures. Facebook, with all their throwing people in jail for one reason or another, or accounts being hacked or deactivated or whatever, you can't trust that anything you put on Facebook is going to stay there forever. So I don't do that. So that's what I do with my photos. They're available to my family, and I'm happy with the way I handled that. So moving on to some of my other minimalist activities. The house that Stacy and I live in is very small. It's only 640 square feet. I'm not exaggerating. It has a kitchen. It has a living room, which I'm sitting in right now. It has essentially 2 bedrooms. Well, the larger bedroom is just big enough to put a bed for the 2 of us in there, and not a lot of room on the outside for the dresser. It's a type of bed that has drawers underneath the mattress. So Stacy keeps her things in a dresser, and I keep my things in the drawers that are under the mattress. So it's all we need. And then the other bedroom is pretty small. You couldn't fit a double bed in there. It's only good enough for a twin bed, in my opinion. And we don't use that as a bedroom. And that's a motorcycle going by right now. We don't use that as a bedroom. We use it as a large walk-in closet, dressing room, such as if I wanted to get up and get ready at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, I could go in there and turn the light on and not bother Stacy in our regular bedroom. And of course, there's a bathroom. There's no attic. There's no basement to this house. There's a 1.5 car garage in the back. And that's where I keep some of my music equipment. It's not very valuable, I'll tell you that. So don't get any ideas. but I do call it Paul's Percussion Paradise. It's locked up. It's dead bolted. Um, I covered over the windows, so it's pretty secure out there, as well as the rest of the house. Plus, we have security cameras around the outside of our house. So we make do with our living room. It has occurred to me I could give a tour, but I like to keep things private, so just take my word for it. Um, the kitchen is pretty small. It's just big enough to have a refrigerator, a stove. I've got shelves up with a microwave and a toaster oven. And then there's another counter where the sink is, with some cabinets around there. It's big enough for us to keep our kitchen stuff in there and do some cooking. Although there's not enough room for two people to be cooking at the same time. So it's really a one-person type of kitchen for whoever's in there making dinner. And we both do take turns making dinner. There's no dishwasher. When we moved in, we saw the amount of cabinet space there and decided we did not want to take any cabinets out to put a dishwasher in, because we preferred to have cabinets for the dishes, pots, and pans that we have in there. So we hand wash our dishes and put them in a rack to dry. The living room, the chair that I'm sitting in is my favorite chair. It's a big man size since I'm 6'5". It's wider than I really need it, but I like the fact that it's up a little bit higher than average, gives me my leg room, and it reclines, so I'm happy with that. In the other corner that I'm facing right now, there's a love seat that Stacy brought in from the apartment that she had prior to us meeting. So that's essentially what we have in our living room. We have my big chair and we have Stacy's love seat. We have an end table. We have a shelf with some items that we like to look at. I have this thing in the back behind my chair that says hot cocoa bar. That was given to me as a gift by my friends Carol and Cliff Provost for this Hot Chocolate of Paul series. And when I'm not recording this, I have a picture of my 3 daughters up there. There's a window to my right. There's a cat tower with a cat sleeping on it right now. She's sitting there nice and comfortable. There's another window behind Stacy's love seat. We got the front door. We got a side door. We have the TV hanging on the wall in this other direction here. We can both easily see the TV from where we are. And then below the TV, we have a small kitchen table. So this kitchen table is actually in the living room because there isn't room for it in the kitchen. So we have the kitchen table sitting there with 2 chairs, one on each side of it, and a small lamp to create a cozy setting for where the kitchen table is. And then right here in front of me where my legs are, we have this coffee table with a top that opens to one half of the side, on the side of it, and on the other side of it facing us is a bunch of little drawers on it where we can store things. This other shelf over here has other storage on it as well. I think I just mentioned that. So it's a small house, only 640 square feet, like I said. It can be challenging to keep it clean if we get lazy and we start leaving things laying around. I've always said that my best cleaning is always done when I'm expecting company. And that is absolutely true. The backyard, we have a patio back there, which I built because, unfortunately, the neighborhood where we're living, some of the backyards get pretty watery, especially in the late winter, early spring. And I found the only way that I could put put chairs back there and not have them sink into the ground is to put a little patio back there. It's actually kind of a raised patio. Basically, it's really a sandbox with, sides on it, a square sandbox. So there's sand on the bottom of it, which I had to carefully level after measuring it out. And then I put foot square blocks all the way around. It's 12 feet by 12 feet. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you see me outside sitting on the back patio. That's what it is. So if you want to see that, just check out some of my other videos where I'm talking from outside, especially the videos that I do my poems on, Paul's poetry and prose. Check out some of those poetry videos and you'll see me sitting or standing on the back patio. So you get the idea. So again, in terms of minimalism, I regularly clean things out. I don't have a lot of space for clothes. I prefer to keep it that way. I don't really want a lot of clothes. I tend to be the type that when I get something new, when I get a new clothing item, I prefer to replace something else with it. So if I get a new pair of pants, I pick out an old pair of pants to get rid of. Or a new shirt, I pick out an old shirt to get rid of. Same with t-shirts and other things. I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to hold on to underwear as long as I can get away with it, and then throw that away when it really needs to be replaced. I'll just leave it at that. So that's another part of minimalism too, is just, budgeting. It's how do you budget? I don't like to spend a lot of money on things, especially items. I prefer to have money available for going on trips. I like experiences. I don't want stuff. I want experiences. So that's what I like to do with my money. There's a cat walking over here. I'm wondering if she's going to make her way over here. Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. He's just sniffing around. So in terms of experiences, I do like to travel a lot. Both Stacy and I like to travel a lot. We've been on a lot of cruises with this Hot Chocolate with Paul series. I'm slowly adding in some cruises that we've been on in the past, and I will be adding more trips and cruises on Hot Chocolate with Paul as they happen in the future. 2025 looks to be very exciting for cruises, so keep checking on Hot Chocolate with Paul for that. So how do I pack for a trip? Again, with as little as I can get away with bringing. I actually went on a cruise in 2016 where all I had was my backpack. It was a 7-night cruise and all I had was my backpack. I figured out what I needed. I came up with a way of packing everything in there. My method that I like to use is to roll things up and then put them in. I never completely understood why it works that way, but it does. You roll things up and then put them in the backpack or suitcase if that's what you want to use. But it works for me. It was a pretty well overstuffed backpack, but everything did fit in it. And people that I met on a cruise who I ran into at the airport on my way home were teasing me for it. So that was a lot of fun. But what do I need for a trip? I need enough clothes to wear for 3 or 4 days, get some laundry done, and then wear those clothes again. That's all I really need. Sometimes I'll bring things that I plan to throw away. The old underwear thing. I'll bring some older things that, especially in the beginning of the trip, once I wear them, I can throw them away. And if I do decide I want to buy anything on a trip, which rarely happens, I can use the little bit of space that I created to bring things home, or just have a lighter backpack on my way home. Yes, we do travel with suitcases. I don't expect Stacy to put all of her things in a backpack. So we do have a suitcase when we both travel together. Again, I respect Stacy for what she wants to bring on a trip. So most of the time, if we're flying, we'll have bags, 1 or 2 bags that need to be checked. Others are small enough to be carry-on bags. The first big trip that Stacy and I ever took was a month-long trip to Europe, which 2 weeks of that was on a cruise ship. That is something I'm going to talk about in my Hot Chocolate with Paul series, so stay tuned for that, and I'll have a lot more details about how the two of us spent 4 weeks in Europe, traveling to multiple countries and staying in multiple places, including 2 weeks on a cruise ship. So that will be coming up soon on my Hot Chocolate with Paul series. So what else can I tell you about minimalism? One thing I can say is that I am honored. I have talked about and wrote about minimalism to friends in the past in person and on my Facebook page, and I have actually had people come up to tell me that they were influenced by what I said and had made efforts at minimalizing or even minimizing what they need for themselves in life, to the point of selling a house and moving into an apartment. I'm amazed to hear that, and generally just going through and regularly cleaning things out. There's a good rule of thumb to follow. Simply, if you haven't used something in a year, why are you keeping it? A year is reasonable. You go through the changes with your clothes, also files and things like that. And a lot of important papers, taxes. I tend to throw away tax stuff after 7 years. Certain things I got to hang on to, especially like my mortgage and marriage license, things like that. Certainly I'm not going to get rid of stuff like that. Things that are memories, like I said, I like to take pictures of a lot of those things and dispose of them. There are things from my past relationships that I have not kept. I've kept some things, some pictures, just because it is a part of my life, and I like to have memories of other parts of my life. So, things like that, I keep some pictures, but, love letters, I burned them. So I guess for me, that's what minimalism is all about. And if it's something that you want to follow up on, I'd be really curious to see what you think. Make comments. I'd love to hear from you. So that's all I got for today for Hot Chocolate with Paul. Have a good day.